Hello and welcome to another video. Today we'll be talking about Russell Martin, whether he should be sacked or not. Now, it's been a big topic among Southampton fans over the recent weeks, especially after the loss against Liverpool. Obviously, it was a decent game, we played pretty well, but is it time for Russell Martin to leave? Because we could have won that game, and despite playing well, the overall gameplay is just not good enough, and it needs to change. Like we clearly have the players, they have talent. Our defense is really strong. The midfield probably could have a bit of working on it, but overall, it's it's pretty decent. And our attack, obviously, we saw Paul on the match the other day, and he was brilliant in attack and just on the ball in general. Obviously, we haven't seen him score yet, but I'm sure that could come if he's not out for too long with his injury. If he's injured at all, we haven't really found out. Nothing's really been said, but yeah, something needs to change because the passing out at the back the other game was just very poor, and it led to us losing 3-2. Mo Salah scoring 2 goals, and the only other thing that we don't do enough, which probably is on the players, I'm sure Russell Martin did say, is pushing forward, because we try and get forward. Obviously, the Liverpool defence was very good, but we didn't push forward. And like players like Tyler Dibbling, Downs, I think a bit of Ryan Fraser were the only players really pushing forward to get the ball into the box, into the the third half of the pitch. You know what I mean? So yeah, Russell Martin, should he be sacked? Should he not? Currently, I'm very 50-50, more leaning to Russell Martin out, because if we don't change, then are we going to survive in this league? Because, you know, in my personal opinion, I think it's the Vincent Company effect, and he's playing a style of football which is attractive, but isn't good enough to keep us in, but could lead him to a bigger job, such as the Man City job. Maybe that's a push, but a job in the second half or the top half of the Premier League. But today we'll be talking about who he could be replaced by. So we'll move on to the first option, which I think is Steve Cooper, who I think played a really, really good role for Leicester. I mean, he kept them out of the relegation zone. I don't know why they sacked him. I think he did a decent job. Nothing went wrong really. He gave them enough points to help them in a comfortable enough position coming up from the Championship. Not many championship teams do as well as he has, really. We saw it at Burnley, Luton and Sheffield last season, who just really played poorly and all got relegated. And, you know, Ipswich and Leicester aren't doing too bad, really, compared to us especially. But, yeah, and I don't know why he got the sack, and if he can keep Leicester, who I would say have a very similar, not style of team, but level of players to us. I don't see why he can do the same with us, just with a bit of a younger team. But he is my first option. I think he could easily replace. He's got obviously a lot of experience with football, managing obviously lower level teams, but still good teams in general. And yeah, don't see why he can be a good replacement for Russell Martin. Obviously, Graham Potter, he did do poorly at Chelsea, but I think he had too much of a high expectation with the Chelsea team, obviously very young, so they weren't very experienced in the football, the big league of Premier League, and I think that's what led Graham Potter to not doing so great as Chelsea expected. Obviously, I think the challenge was harder on him because of the high expectations from Chelsea. But when he was at Brighton, he was probably one of the greatest managers in England, because that Brighton team coming up and then slowly developing with a young Brighton team, obviously some random players. We've got Matthias Fernandes. They had Matoma. Obviously, I don't know if that's the same level because he came from Sporting, but still, if we bring him in, could he develop this young team and make us like Brighton, get us to the Europa League, Conference League, whatever? But it would take some work, but he could be the man to do it. And yeah, that's not my first choice. None of this is not in order. This is just these are just managers who have come in my mind, and I'm going to explain why. So Gareth Southgate, I mean, this is a bit of a stretch because he didn't really do a great job with Middlesbrough when he was the manager of Middlesbrough, but he has a lot of experience with talented players, and I feel like we have talented players. We just haven't shown enough talent. Obviously, there's been sparks of talent, but nothing to push us to winning games, obviously. And Gareth Southgate, as much as he wasn't great at winning games, winning trophies particularly, he's worked with some of the best players, or England's best players. So why he can, convince maybe a few of them to come in, maybe the worse English players to come in, or just play his style of football with England wasn't the worst. I do prefer it's the style of football Russell Martin's playing right now, but he could be an option. He's not the worst, but he wouldn't be my top candidate, to be fair. Eric Ten Hag, a brilliant manager, but I feel like he would be hard to get in because he probably is still owed about 30 million from Manchester United after the sacking, and we'd have to pay him a lot. But he's a brilliant manager. Obviously, won the FA Cup, took them quite far in the Europa League. He's just a brilliant manager who I think is capable of doing greatness, and I think he could keep us up because he's worked with some brilliant players, has a great CV, Ajax and Man United. There's no reason why he wouldn't help us stay up, but it's whether we can stay up. And I don't think he'd join, but he would be my candidate, probably in the top three for me. David Moyes, again, a brilliant manager. I think that he would be a great candidate for us because he is he's built a CV for himself, which is just top notch. Like, he won the Conference League with West Ham. He plays a very old style, but it works in the Premier League still. Obviously, the reason why West Ham sacked him is because they wanted a bit of difference, because now they're at a level where they can compete. They got a younger manager and he's working with them, but we don't need a young talented manager. We just need someone who can keep us up. So David Moyes, I think, would be perfect option. And obviously Man United, West Ham, Sunderland, Everton, all teams that were top-notch teams. And he's never really been relegated with any of them. So there we go. Now, this one was a massive stretch. I had to look on Transfer Market, if I'm being honest, for managers, and I thought, if you can do all right with Roma, you should be able to do all right with Southampton. I don't know, maybe that's a stretch, but he got sacked after losing 4 games with Roma. Why Russell Martin hasn't been sacked after losing 10 games is out of my mind, but I think he could be a great option. Young manager, out of a job, probably again like Ten Hag is getting paid a crap ton from Roma after his contract got taken off him. But again, a good option. Maybe he could take the trip to the Premier League and do a decent job. But I mean, he has no connection with Southampton, so it probably would never happen. Now here, this is probably me going crazy, but Albert Stuyvenberg, if that's how you say it, is the reason why I thought of him is because of Enzo Maresca, obviously being the Man City assistant manager, then became the Leicester manager and is now the Chelsea manager. He's taken those steps and it's just happened really quickly. And obviously Stuyvenberg is not a young manager, sorry, but he still hasn't reached the level where he can fully coach the top team, and I don't see why he couldn't take the step to Southampton and do a decent job. Obviously, maybe Maresca was a miracle, but maybe Arteta's a great manager, so maybe he's learned a bit from that, and maybe he could help Southampton survive. But again, a bit of a stretch again. Carlos Corberán, I think he's favourite for Leicester manager, and I think he's always favourite for next managers. But again, doing brilliant job with West Brom. But I feel like he's a good candidate, but is it a bit of like a Russell Martin? Obviously, he plays different football to Russell Martin, and it probably would help if we just changed the style of football. But I don't think we really need a Championship manager at this level, but it would probably be a step up from Russell Martin. But again, we need to be aiming high and someone who has experience, but it could be an option. And he's doing a great job, West Brom. Now, this is one of my top picks, I would say, because Rafael Benitez is just the man you call. Like, he's basically like the Dean Smith, the Spanish Dean Smith, you could say. He's the man who will help us survive, and I don't see why if we couldn't bring him in. Obviously, I'm not sure if he's fully retired yet, but 1 year, what could that do? I mean, he probably would help us survive, but I don't really have much else to say. And then my last choice would be the current Utrecht manager, Ron Jans. Obviously, he's a bit old, but again, experienced manager, has coached many teams, very not particularly big teams. He's coached Cincinnati and Utrecht, and obviously many other teams, but they're not massive teams. However, he's doing a really good job in the Eredivisie, and other managers who've done really good in the Eredivisie, such as Arne Slot and Erik ten Hag, have all gone to do decent jobs with Premier League teams. So I don't see why he can do a good job with the Premier League teams. And anyways, that's all for today, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to read my article on this, it will be down below in the link in the description. Please subscribe and like, and stay tuned for the next video. Goodbye.